The DC Cinematic Universe gets a massive overhaul. Big changes coming to the DCEU. Is this just another case of The Boy Who Cried Wolf? Or is there actually some substance to it this time around? Let's break it down. Hey movie fans, so multiple media outlets are saying that the DCEU, the DC Cinematic Universe, whatever you want to call it, had a big meeting and it was described, I'm not going to use the actual word that is being tossed around that apparently is describing the meeting, I'm going to go with my own more appropriate word of crapfest. Apparently this meeting did not go well, and it was more or less like a kid getting yelled at for doing something wrong. So the meeting apparently was spearheaded by Walter Hamada, who is the guy that's more or less in charge of the Conjuring universe, with Conjuring 2, the upcoming Nun movie that the trailer dropped earlier today. He's been the one overseeing, and not necessarily directing, but he's been the Kevin Feige of these movies, and these movies have done well. He held this meeting and essentially called people out on what the crap are you doing? So, yeah, lots of news came out of this meeting apparently. So, let's try and get as much of this information out as we can and discuss my thoughts on this. So, first of all, Ben Affleck has been on the fence of, am I coming back to Batman? Am I not? He's out. He will be leaving as Batman. They want to do a more or less a soft reboot on the Batman and do a younger version for Matt Reeves' solo Batman movie. This does not come as a surprise to me at all. I don't have strong opinions on it either way, actually, believe it or not. I'm a huge Batman fan. I really like Ben Affleck's Batman in Justice League. I don't know if I care either way if he stays or if he goes. If he stays, great, you're a great Batman. If you leave, okay. We get some other guy that can give it a shot and see what they can bring to the table. So far, we haven't had a perfect Batman. Ben Affleck was awesome. He's one of the best Batmans we've ever gotten. I just like seeing different incarnations, so maybe we'll get that. It doesn't seem like he's returning. Well, how are we going to get a new Batman? It might be the Flash movie, which is something I've been pitching for quite a while now. There was some discussion apparently in this meeting about the upcoming Flash movie, Flashpoint, which I had heard reports that it was just going to be a straight-up Flash movie, but now it seems to be Flash back to being a Flashpoint movie where he goes back in time and changes up the timeline and everything. Supposedly, the Flashpoint comic, the original one, is very dark and very serious. It's a fantastic story, but it's very dark. Supposedly, out of this meeting, it was talked about that this Flashpoint movie would be more akin to Back to the Future, which I'm actually not totally against. That sounds quite good. It sounds interesting. Ezra Miller's Flash was very different from the Flash that I know, and not just because he doesn't have blonde hair. I'm not letting that go. Someday, I want to see a blonde Barry Allen. But he was quirky and different, and I think more of a comedic Flash could work for his Flashpoint. Plus, there was early talks of Robert Zemeckis directing the Flash movie, who also did Back to the Future, so if you can get him to do that, I think it would actually work really, really well. They want to have more lighthearted and fun in their movies, which I'm all for certain characters. I've never thought the lightheartedness or the darkness in the DC movies was necessarily the problem. I thought it was more of the misrepresentation of certain characters. Like, you needed to make the Batman movies dark. You don't need to make them funny. Flash, you could have more of a comedic edge to it. You don't need to make it all darkness and sadness and brooding. And then with this Flashpoint of Barry changing the timeline, it more or less would be a soft reboot that we kind of seem to be getting. Because, and honestly, my favorite piece of news that supposedly has come out of this meeting, Walter Hamada has said that DC will not be announcing movies until movies are actually in production, which, thank goodness for that, because honestly it seemed like we were getting to the point where a new DC movie was announced every 4 weeks and then nothing came about it. Thanks, Nightwing movie.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again.
But on the positive note, it's nice to know that somebody's going, hey, let's not announce a movie until we have an actual movie to announce that we're working on. Right now, the only official, this will be happening, because it's already in production. DC films that are coming are Aquaman later this year, Wonder Woman 1984, which I don't know if that's the official title or not, and Shazam. All three of which I'm super looking forward to. But we have like 20 movies that supposedly are coming. It's nice to know that, okay, from here on out, half these movies probably aren't coming out. We'll get to that in a second. But it's nice to know that they're going to stop just blindly announcing things just to grab headlines for a little bit and then drop the project entirely. So I said that half those projects are probably getting dumped. So Walter Hamada apparently has also combed through the list of upcoming projects and given priority to certain titles over others. The titles in question have not really been said. They didn't really say who or what characters are getting the preferential treatment here, but it seemed like certain movies that have been announced might get axed, which is fine with me because the schedule is kind of looking a little bloated of we don't really need these movies, except for Nightwing, dang it.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
But apparently it seems like some movies are getting dropped while certain other ones might become more of a priority, which is awesome. And I didn't talk about this, but a couple days ago, Jeff Johns stepped down from his position. People say stepped down, but he more or less took a different position. He wasn't executive producer anymore. He's now going to be a script writer and have more creative direction for characters going forward, which is awesome because he's a great storyteller, and he's going to be working on the Green Lantern Corps movie, which will be better than the Ryan Reynolds version. So it seemed like they're actually saying, okay, let's take our time, let's have a roadmap, and figure out what we're doing with certain properties instead of just blindly announcing things. Speaking of blindly announcing things, we're still, however, getting two Joker standalone movies. One with the Joaquin Phoenix completely detached from the regular timeline, and a Jared Leto spin-off movie, which, oh boy, no one's really asking for that, myself included. But supposedly the Joaquin Phoenix one will have a budget of $55 million, relatively small, and they want to have it more be a small scale movie, which I'm totally okay with. You don't need all your comic book movies to be big budgeted affairs, and having more of a small story really could work for Joker. Some of the best Joker stories are small, intimate stories that take place with a relatively low budget, like The Killing Joke. I'm sure there's a lot of other things that came out of this meeting that I'm missing. Like, certain movies are being, like, thrown together, like the Harley Quinn movie may now merge into the Birds of Prey movie, so on and so forth, but there's just a lot of information that came out of this that just kind of was like, oh gosh, it was, I've heard the story 1,000 times of DC's finally changing their ways. Now it seems like they actually are, because they have someone steering the ship, and steering the ship in a direction that actually makes sense. Like, The Conjuring is a successful film franchise right now. Say what you will about, like, oh, I don't like horror or whatever else. The Conjuring makes a good chunk of change whenever a new one comes out. There was quite a bit of buzz around this Nun trailer when it dropped earlier today. I think Walter Hamada, I don't know if he's a comic book fan or not. I don't know if you necessarily need to be. You just need to have a good vision and a good sense of, okay, this is what works and this is what doesn't. We've been doing what doesn't work, so let's change our path and figure out what is going to work. And I'm all for that. So yeah, that's a lot of information, but what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Do you think DC's actually going to change their ways this time? I hope so. Let me know your thoughts about all this news that came out today in the comments below. And as always, if you like what you see and want to see more, subscribe to the channel or find me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at Uncharted Media. Stay sharp, movie guys and gals.